In order to get to a tour in Bolivia, I flew to Salta, Argentina, where I just made the 12 a.m. bus to the border at La Quiaca, and once crossing into Villazón on the Bolivian side, took another bus to Tupiza. It was there where my 3-night, 4-day adventure began. Heading out of Tupiza, we first stopped in Sixar, with dramatic rock formations and a view to the surrounding valley. It was clear to me right from the beginning that this Bolivian scenery would continuously amaze and surprise. With our driver Gonzalo speeding on the narrow dirt roads to get in the lead, we stopped by midday in Aguana Pampa to look at a grazing field for llamas and alpacas, and then we enjoyed some lunch. One thing you notice quickly while on the road is the extreme isolation and complete disconnect from civilization. Deserts sit side by side with snow-capped peaks, and all you can do is take it in and try to find the right words. We ended day 1 by sleeping in San Antonio de Lipez at 4,200 meters above sea level. That night I really suffered from altitude sickness, unable to breathe and waking up totally dehydrated and with the worst headache I've ever had. Fighting nausea, we set out in the dark to a tiny village destroyed by the Spanish conquistadors. As dawn came, we could begin to see more of the snow-capped peaks lining the mountain chain. The village had a sad history. Apparently, all of the inhabitants were forced to work in the mines in the mountain, working about 2 months on with 4 days off. This resulted in their annihilation, and their survivors now make up what is San Antonio de Lipez. On the trail, we saw why you go in groups of 2, when our wingman got a flat tire, but soon it was back on the road for more action. There were points where we were simply surrounded by mountains, riding in a riverbed, or face to face with perfect mirror images. We would step out of the Jeep and begin to talk loudly and excitedly, but suddenly we would realize that there is no need to talk so loudly. We were in the middle of nowhere, and all we had to do was whisper to be heard. Next up was the Dahli Desert, named after Spanish painter Salvador Dali, because it resembles his painting, The Persistence of Memory. The most dramatic thing about this section of desert was the striking red colors that you find in the hills and of course in the sand. Likewise, standing out there with the powerful winds showed you just how strong nature can be. Shortly after, we visited Laguna Verde at 4,400 meters above sea level. This lake and volcano form the border with Chile, and close by is Sol de Mañana, a series of geysers over 5,000 meters up. Unlike most parks, in Bolivia you can get right up close, breathing in the sulfur as it rises to the surface and bubbles. This investigative reporting caused my back to become covered in sulfuric mud, though it actually comes off pretty easily and is not that harmful. Our last stop of the day was to Laguna Colorada at 4,300 meters above sea level. This red lake, which is caused by iron deposits, is the home to 3 species of flamingos coexisting peacefully. Walking around the lake, I was able to get right up to the flamingos and just watch them quietly. Stay tuned for part 2 coming up soon. In Southwestern Bolivia, I'm John Brandt.